Welcome to another episode of Coffee Spills and Pineapples, the podcast where creators tell their stories to inspire you, the listeners. I'm your host, Rafi, and today my guest is Mathew Zein, copywriter, journalist, and creator. Thank you for being with us, Mathew. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for the invitation.
Yes, so I've been following you for quite some time through LinkedIn, and I was really interested to see the journey you were taking because the first time I read about you, you sort of popped up on my LinkedIn feed as a copywriter, a writer, how we can collaborate and work together and maybe see, what kind of new skills we can learn from you. And the journey from there on was really fantastic to see how much you've grown. Let's take a step back and see, you, Mathew, as the person. You've traveled around the world. You've been to so many places, from the Middle East to all the way to Far East, now also in Armenia. What took you to these places? What was the motivation? You love traveling, or is it just by accident that you found yourself in these places?
Basically, I didn't know I loved traveling when I started it. I graduated information technology engineering. I am a software engineer, but I didn't want to work as a programmer. I hated working behind the office all the time. I wanted to to do something different, something that would engage me with people, interact with people, talk to them. When I graduated, I started writing. Back then, it was like online forums. There wasn't presence for social media platforms. So I was just writing articles for forums, articles about tech company.
Blogs and that kind of stuff.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because I understand this industry, so I can understand tech people. I started writing, and when I did it, it was like for free. I never thought this could become a profession. I was just doing it, sometimes for a few of my friends.
A friend here.
Like someone wants to start a website, like they have a product or they have something, and I would do the copy for them. It just started developing. Like people started asking me, my friend wants you to do something, my friend wants you to write for them. Yeah, then maybe I can get paid for it. And I started getting paid for that. Since I hated sitting, in offices, I hated working in offices, I wanted to work from different places, to work remotely. And back then it was the start of remote work. The start of digital nomadism. It was.
And we're talking about which dates now?
15 years from today. We're talking
15 years ago.
Yeah, I graduated 15 years ago.
Okay.
I'm now 36.
So you're like one of the oldest digital nomads that I know.
I mean, there are older digital nomads. It started even before. I know someone who's been, a digital nomad for 25 years.
All right.
So I would say it started 10 years before that. But even when I started that, my family wasn't so happy about it. That everyone I knew went to work in a bank or telecommunication company. That was, job that everyone wanted. Meanwhile, I was writing and I was trying, to work not in an office. And digital nomadism is all about working remotely from different places, being free from one office. And that's why I started traveling. And when you travel, you meet new clients, and you can also work with clients worldwide. So you're not, limited to one country. You're not limited to one market. And that's how it all started.
That's really fascinating because, one of the things that I wanted to do also is travel, but I never really was able to connect the travel with my career. As a creator, I always wanted to create, short content, film, writing, photography, events. But recently, I find myself being more capable as a communicator, as a storyteller, to find these kinds of remote work, which allow me to become a digital nomad as well. And a lot of the times that work takes me to Europe. Let's go back to your China experience.
Yes.
You found yourself in China, and what were you doing in China? I mean, do you speak Chinese?
No, I don't. One of my biggest mistakes is everywhere I go, I've never learned the language, including Armenia. I've been here for 8 years. I never learned the language. It's a mistake. I should have learned languages.
So that's a coffee spill right there.
Yes.
Right.
I should have done that because, 8 years here, I would have been speaking Armenian
fluent.
And I didn't try to, just to make it clear. It's not that hard to learn a language when you spend time in a country. So I was traveling, and to be honest, I don't like moving around a lot. I like staying in a place, and that's the good thing about digital nomadism. You immerse yourself in a culture. You don't just go for a country for a week or two, then leave to another place. You stay there, you rent an apartment, you stay for at least, for example, 6 months or even more.
So you're not a tourist. You're actually living an experience.
Of course. You buy your stuff, your vegetables, you cook at home. You don't just go, to hotels and restaurants. you become someone like a local. You have, for example, like, okay, on the weekend, you might go somewhere, you start having friends.
Maybe the gym, maybe a cultural center, and so on. So in China, if you didn't speak the language, how did you just,
With the help of
help
college
me
students.
understand
I've
how?
always had help with like college students who
Ah,
speak
I
English.
see.
I would hire someone to help me like with the translation. And back then it was, the surge of Alibaba as a platform.
Mm-hmm.
So every Chinese factory wanted to join Alibaba. They wanted to have like English content so they can sell their like, I don't know, their goods to the West. And I was there at the right time. I lived in Guangzhou and in the rural areas of Guangzhou.
Oh, okay.
So I would go to the factories directly, not just in offices or buildings, but go to the factories, introduce what I can do. And that's how it started. And I enjoyed living in China. I love Chinese people. And I'm even like trying now to connect that love for China with what I'm doing in Armenia now. I will tell you about it later. But I enjoyed my time there. After some time, when my wife and I wanted a change, we wanted to have a family. So we
Right.
wanted to, not, like go somewhere else, start a family. And, when you have kids, it means now you need to stay somewhere for
So you went to the UAE?
Yes, we went to the Emirates and we thought it's like more international. Maybe we can find like, I don't know, some international schools and everything there.
Maybe more English speakers also, so that helps a lot, of course.
We went there, but as a writer, I enjoy working outdoors. I don't like again, ACs. I hate ACs. I hate working from offices. So in the Emirates, we didn't have the chance to experience that. You have to work in an office. You have to have the AC on all the time. So we wanted a place with a different weather, a place where we can again like spend some time walking every day outside.
Yeah, because the summer really gets hot. You can't really be outside, and even inside without the AC doesn't work.
It's a great country again, but for this specific aspect for me, it wasn't the best choice for me. So we decided to go somewhere else. We had our eyes on Canada. We wanted to experience again, there are a lot of international communities there, and maybe we can enjoy our time there. Maybe we can, again, have a kid there.
Canada had a digital nomad visa at the time. One of the first countries, I don't want to say first, but at the time it was easier to get a digital nomad visa.
Exactly. And a friend of ours invited us to Armenia in spring, in April 2018. He just invited us to Armenia for a week. He's Armenian. He said, maybe you can visit me in here. The weather is great. We were telling him about like what we're experiencing with the hot weather, what we want. And he said, just come here, spend a week, and then you can go wherever you want. So we arrived in Yerevan in April 2018. And on day one, my wife says, I love the place. What about we stay here? We decided to stay for a year.
You'll thank your wife for all of us. Yeah, from all of us, yes.
We say maybe 1 year. Then 1 year became 2, 3, 4, 8.
Wow.
And a child. It became alive. Next year, we are enrolling our kid in a kindergarten. So it means another 10 years in Armenia until at least he grows up a little so we can start traveling again.
Fascinating to see the journey of how you ended up in this small country in the Caucasus that maybe so many of our listeners don't really know much about. Really, really exciting to see what you've done with your own project, with your own creative project in regards to making those audiences, the listeners that are following us today, to know more about how life in Armenia is everyday life, from banking to grocery shopping to hanging out with friends to paying taxes and so on. Life in Armenia magazine is soon going to be having its 25th edition. I am baffled to see that 17,000 plus readers and followers are already subscribed to this. And congratulations. This is a huge pineapple there for you. If you're enjoying this episode, follow us on Spotify or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Can you tell us about how that happened? Like, what, you woke up one day and you said, I'm going to make a magazine?
Actually, no, it didn't happen that way. So in 2020, I started working with a company in Wyoming. The founder of that company is a journalist. He has been working in journalism for probably 20 years. And he taught me about journalistic writing. Instead of just searching Google for something, go interview people, get information, and write something unique. And this is how you can rank on search results. And I started doing that, and I started learning from him. And I'm still working from him, by the way, with him. And he married an Armenian later. He lives in Spain now, and he married an Armenian.
Okay. That's the connection to Armenia. Everybody's connected to Armenia, it seems.
He was here just visiting his, back then she was his fiance. He was visiting her parents in here. And we met at the coffee shop and we started collaborating together. He taught me about journalistic writing. And I got into this so much. And I wanted to prove to my clients whenever I'm applying to something that it works, that you can actually have journalistic content on your website and it ranks on top of search results. So I thought, let's write an article about some topic using journalistic writing, and let me invest enough time in this so it ranks on top of search results, and I can use it later to get clients.
Good strategy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I picked the topic of opening back offices in Armenia. So I posted on LinkedIn that I want to do that, and I want to interview a few people about this topic. Hundreds of messages from people from Armenia, from the US, from the UK, telling me that, okay, I know a friend, or I've opened an office in Armenia. And within 3 months, I interviewed 100 CEOs.
Wow.
And I wrote the article. And it ranked on top of search results in 4 months in its respective category. It beat every other article there. Because of the content it had, because I interviewed people. It wasn't just, again, recycled content from search engines.
Right. It was more authentic, and it really spoke about the needs not as a research, but rather as a story.
Exactly. And I started receiving messages after that article. People were asking me about stuff related to Armenia that I don't know about. Because of the article, because of the LinkedIn exposure, they thought maybe I have the answer. It just sparked an interest, like, if everyone wants answers for these questions, why don't I write another article? So I wrote another one about working remotely from Armenia. I was just like, back then it was 2022, December 2022, it was like, AI, everyone is talking about AI and how it's going to take over all the professions.
That's right.
And I thought maybe I should explore like other career paths. So I went to AI, ChatGPT, and I told them everything about me. Like, this is what I like, this is what I do, what I can do in the future. So ChatGPT said, it looks like you love Armenia and you have a passion for digital nomadism. Why don't you write for magazines about digital nomadism in Armenia? I said, there is no magazine about digital nomadism in Armenia.
And it said,
Create one.
create one.
That was the answer. Just, why don't you create one? I wish I've taken the screenshot of that chat, because I never thought it would go this far. But when it said create one, I was like, maybe yes, why not create one? And I did. And that was January 2023, the first issue of the magazine. When I look back at that issue, it looks like a joke. It's nothing compared to what we have right now. But someone told me this means you're doing a good job.
The growth is
If you're
there.
ashamed of your
Right.
first step you've taken, it means you've done a lot of growth.
Yeah, many of the creators, artists, painters, writers, photographers look back at their previous works and are quite critical of what they've done. But you have to put that in the context of the skills, the experience, the knowledge, the available tools. So yeah, I mean, it's good to be self-critical.
I even thought about taking it away from the website, like removing it. But then I thought, let's keep it. I want everyone who goes there to see how we went from that point to the issues we have right now. From having like 40 pages, everything is a total mess, to having now we have 120 pages in every issue. And it's totally different.
And people are reading sporadically, or are they actually reading all the stories? And how, what's the analytics behind this?
They read and they comment on the smallest detail. What I like is when someone sends me something saying, I read this part, I read this phrase. I would like to ask about this specific topic. Within 1 year, by the way, only 1 year, I answered only through LinkedIn 22,400 messages and comments about life in Armenia. It's a full-time job. People ask about everything. So whenever we release an issue, tons of questions arrive. People ask about different things, from safety to education to traveling to taxes. Sometimes I know the answers. Sometimes I direct them to my friends. I try to be as helpful as possible. There is a lot to talk about. And this is how it happened. This is how the magazine grew from 0 readers to 17,000.
And these are not necessarily people in Armenia, right? These are people from where?
Mostly from the US. I would say 70 or 80% of our readers are Armenian diaspora, but that kind of diaspora have never been to Armenia.
Or never been in part of the community center as well, because there's a lot of that.
Out of
that
LA,
youth.
I would say. They ask questions. Sometimes the questions are like, so what do you know about Armenia? And you find out that they know so little. Like me living in here for 8 years, I know a lot more than they do. But I didn't know that before starting the magazine.
Well, that makes sense, because I mean, their reality is in across the ocean, in a far, far land. They could even maybe learn about Armenia through news clippings here and there, maybe short YouTube videos that some people have sent them. but to have a deep dive and knowing more would require them to have available material.
We've introduced Armenia as a digital nomad destination because no one thought of it as a destination before. It was a travel destination for tourism, that's it. But no one thought about working remotely from Armenia, planning to work remotely.
Right.
Coming here for 6 months, staying here, work remotely, then leave if you want.
That's right. And I think even the Armenian government created a new digital nomad visa for people who want to come and live here. Maybe it's not the best solution yet.
It's
Maybe
not a
tell us
program.
about this. Yeah.
It's not a program yet. There is no official program. They are studying to release something.
I see. Okay.
But it's not a fully standing program. However, the Armenian residence permit is stronger than many digital nomad visas worldwide. You can come here,
Not
get
necessarily
residence
as a-
permit
yeah.
for a year, and it's more competitive than getting a 1-year visa for any other country. Because in Armenia, you can work with local companies. In other countries, when you have a digital nomad visa, you cannot work with local companies. In Armenia, there is the tax breaks and everything. So you pay 2 to 5% taxes, that's it, as a turnover tax.
I see.
So there are a lot of benefits when you come here as a digital nomad, and you can work remotely.
And these kinds of information you're sharing through sessions that you're doing with a colleague in different parts of Armenia to try and get it noticed.
So for this kind of information, promoting digital nomadism, we use the magazine, we write articles.
Right.
And then every month I have calls, who wants to join, they
That's
ask
right.
questions and I answer. Now with my colleague, Hago Panosyan, we tour Armenian regions and we teach remote work. Because when you have digital nomads coming, you must have the remote work culture
Infrastructure.
inside.
Yep.
Because they don't want to come to Yerevan. They want smaller communities outside. And you must create that community for them. When they go, for example, to a co-working space, they must see others working remotely. You don't want them just, arriving in a small village or town and no one knows what remote work is.
Which are the three top destinations in Armenia you would recommend our listeners as a remote work destination?
I would say Ijevan and
Ijevan.
Dilijan from Tavush province and Stepanovan in Lori province.
So mostly the northern part, which is not far also from the Georgian border.
If they want to go to the sea,
cross,
you can just cross
yeah.
the border, you go to the sea.
That's
if you
right.
want hiking in the mountains, here's Armenia.
Very interesting to learn about country from a very different perspective. So this is not tourism. This is more about living, experiencing Armenia as a resident,
You rent
as a
apartment
local.
for a very
Yes,
affordable
exactly.
price, and you buy your vegetables, you meet the locals, you work with them. There are now small co-working spaces. It's happening more and more. So it's becoming something, but it will take, of course, time. But other countries have done it and it succeeded. Look at Croatia or Bulgaria. They have now digital nomad communities, thousands of internationals living in small places.
Coming back to storytelling, because that's a lot of what you've been doing for the past 2.5 years through life in Armenia, and even before as a journalist and content writer. I think a book is coming out. Maybe you want to share with us what do you want to do with this book?
Since I'm writing all these articles and I'm receiving all those messages from people, all those questions, I can see that there is a lot of information people want to find. And right now, when you go to the internet and you search for a book about Armenia, there are no books about Armenia in English that are possible.
Mostly history, that kind of stuff.
History,
Yeah.
exactly. You cannot find books about life now. You cannot find positive books about what you can experience now on the streets. So I thought, why don't I put everything together into one book about my experience as a non-Armenian with a non-Armenian wife over the past 8 years in this country. And I'm targeting this book to the diaspora. And next year I'm traveling Europe with my book to meet the small diasporan communities to introduce the book and to introduce life here. Because I've been receiving these questions. I have met a lot of couples who relocated to Armenia, not mainly influenced by the magazine, but the magazine played a role in that.
Right.
So
Gave them information, gave them
Exactly.
reference points.
I met them in person. I met people from different American states. I met people from different European countries. They moved here, they called me, we met, and it was great. So it means it works. They just need that, positive content about the country. They need answers about small things. It's not that big issues.
Right.
And that's why I put everything into one book. It's 15 chapters about my life in here, my advice about life in here, the myths I've been hearing about life in Armenia, debunking those.
So it's really cool that you're going to have a tour with this, and I think also diaspora, but maybe even non-Armenians that are interested in leaving their hustle bustle, big city kind of lifestyle and looking for something a little bit more cozy and community focused. That's my experience in Armenia, at least Yerevan, the city,
Exactly.
the way it's shaped. It's easy for me to get around. I know a lot of different people that I see regularly on the street, so they become part of my immediate network, and it feels like a community. That's one of the reasons where I repatriated from Canada to Armenia, which reminds me, the book actually, I did a similar kind of production. It wasn't my stories, but I compiled stories of other repatriates in 2006, and I published a small book called Special Residency Status, Stories from Armenia. And actually, Hagop Panosyan has a story in that book. It's more of a visual story, his contribution. It's really interesting to read stories of people opening a bank account, the funny anecdotes, taking the public transport, trying to pay a bill for electric bills and utilities. This is in 2006 and 2007. So there's a lot of funny anecdotal storytelling in there as well. And this is exactly what your book reminded me of. So thank you for this as well. In conclusion, I wanted to ask you the recurring question that I ask all my guests. What is a coffee spill that you can share with us? I know you mentioned the not learning languages earlier. Maybe also a pineapple, if not the life in Armenia. Is there something else that you think that was quite an achievement in your personal journey or your career path?
Let's start with the coffee spill.
Let's go.
Around a year ago, I thought that things would work faster. So, okay, I see the engagement, everything is good.
Then with life in Armenia?
Yes.
Okay.
Then let's do something on the ground right away. What about, for example, we organize a program, we bring digital nomads. I thought everyone will be so open to that. I just, tried to take a step forward without waiting enough time, without putting enough effort, without writing enough content.
Without building a community, because now you have 17,000. And
Back then it was like a few thousand,
right,
probably a couple. I thought that it would work right away, just because the engagement was high. And this is something because of social media. It tricks you thinking that it will work.
Right.
But it doesn't. I spent a lot of time, I put a lot of effort trying to organize a program in Tavush province, in Ijevan city, with the help of the municipality. They were so open to that collaboration. They offered to, how can we help to bring international residents to our small city? And I thought that it would work without investment. It would work without, you can just write something and people will come. So I spent some time, I did a lot of things, but it all failed. And I thought, maybe just like one video would solve everything. It doesn't. There has to be a full plan. There has to be a community, as you mentioned. And now, after 2 years of working, of building that community, of building my relationships, everything changed. And now, for example, Armenia ranks 17 worldwide as a destination for digital nomads.
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah, we've been pitching all the indexes every month with the magazine, with the statistics, with everything. Last month, Armenia ranked for the first time on one of the prestigious indexes, so the Global Citizen, which is like one of the most important ones. Next year, we are having that program again. But now I know that I am more prepared. I have the community to support me, the international connections for that. I'm going for it next year in April. So now with the help of a British company, we are starting Nomad Armenia. It's a full program that is supposed to help people interested in coming to Armenia for 3 or 6 months with everything from picking them up from the airport until they leave the country. For example, what are the co-working spaces? How can I connect to the internet? How can I start a bank account? Everything you think about when coming to a new country, we will make it easy for them.
Fascinating.
With the help of team members, with the help of volunteers, organized manner, not just, I will write an article or shoot a video and people will come.
I've combined your coffee spills to the pineapple because I feel that Life in Armenia pineapple sort of gave you the jump start for your next project, which is the book and this new magazine that is focused on nomad workers. Thank you very much for being with us today. It was a very exhilarating conversation and finding out about life in Armenia, but also nomad working and your personal journey, which still to now, I don't know where you're from. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support us, follow us either on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube channel for more episodes from Coffee Spills and Pineapples.